Hello, everyone. Welcome back to I See What You're Saying, the Disciplined Listening Podcast. I'm Michael Reddington, and today it is my pleasure to introduce our next guest, Stacey Brown Randall. Stacey is an author, a speaker, and a podcast host. And her focus is on brain science, psychology, and behavioral economics, which she leverages in order to teach business owners and sales professionals how to generate referrals without asking for them, which should set up an episode that really anybody in business will be interested in listening to. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be here today as we dive into a wide range of topics, including how can we grow our businesses without quote unquote selling, which ties into what we already mentioned. How can we get referrals without directly asking for them? She's going to talk about how we can seed and sow referrals. She's also going to talk a little bit about her formula for getting referrals as well. This is a wall-to-wall knowledge-packed episode. I really appreciate you being here for it. Thank you so very much. While you're here, please just take a quick moment to subscribe to the show. Leave it a review, leave your feedback for us. Please like the show, share it with your network. We really do appreciate it. And while you're online, take a quick moment just to check out our sponsors. As always, humantel.com is the first stop. You can head over there and enter the code INQUASIVE25 to get 25% off their best-in-class online training to recognize when people's emotions are shifting by accurately interpreting changes in their facial expressions and body language. For the professional interviewers, please head over to certifiedinterviewer.com. That's where you can get all your questions answered about the membership requirement and opportunities for the International Association of Interviewers, both at the national and local chapter levels. Also, that's where you can get all your questions answered about the Certified Forensic Interviewer designation, who qualifies, how do you earn it, how do you leverage the designation, and more. All your questions answered there at certifiedinterviewer.com. And finally, please check out inquasive.com. That's where you can learn more about the programs our clients ask us to custom facilitate for their senior leaders, sales teams, HR teams, and more to teach them how to unlock hidden value in all of their high impact conversations. We really appreciate you being here for another week. Thank you so very much. So now without further ado, we introduce to you Stacey Brown Randall. Hello, Stacey. It is so great to see you. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I think for all of us, we know how important referrals are, regardless of the size or scale of our business. And I think for many of us, we've been taught sort of traditional ways to get them, to ask for them, to mine for them. I can think of certain people I've worked with in the past who consistently send me emails asking for referrals. And I guess that's one technique. But from what I've read, I'm very interested in learning more about your techniques for really building our referral base and growing our business. So just to start there, I would love to ask, how exactly can people grow their business without selling?
Yeah, that's the beauty of referrals, right? I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can bring clients into your business. And there's a lot of different techniques that you can use, as you're bringing somebody through that buyer's journey. But the best way, and if you've ever received a referral, you know this, right? The best way to have clients or prospects kind of enter into your world and kind of make that decision if they want to work with you or not starts when somebody else is vouching for you. It always starts when somebody else is putting their reputation on the line and saying, hey, Michael's like that. This is someone you want to work with. This person can solve your problems. And so truly when I moved, so if you think about my first business, where I didn't receive any referrals. And you contrast that to my second business, the business I'm in now, and we're about to hit 13 years, and I receive lots of referrals. The big difference is how I approach conversations with prospects. And I don't have to feel like I'm walking in the door selling them, like I'm trying to convince them, or I'm trying to make sure I can, uncover their pain in a 3-question process that they have, right? It's more being able to approach conversations with potential clients from a curiosity perspective, because when they're referred to you, right, the definition with a referral is that they've been connected to you by someone they trust, and they know they're the prospect. They have a problem they want solved. That's why they're willing to be referred to you. That's why they're willing to be connected to you. And so when you walk into a conversation where somebody has an idea of what you do, has an idea that you can solve their problem, really you get to approach that conversation from just a place of curiosity. Like, hey, let me understand what's going on, and let's talk through if I'm the right person to work with you. And that is not selling at all in terms of like feeling like you got to pull out your portfolio and be like, let me show you all these great things that I've done. And let me talk about all these great things that I've done for my clients and my case studies and my results. And all that matters. But when you approach a conversation with a prospect and you've already been pre-vetted, so to speak, or you've already been vouched for, and they know they have the problem you can solve, it completely changes the entire dynamic of that conversation.
So many great points in there. And when you think about someone coming to you with a referral, I think we all understand that they're more trusting in that scenario. Someone else vouched for you. They trust that person. So they come in more trusting. Huge problem solved. But I love how you also layered on top of that. They know they're the prospect. Like they're here for a reason. So a lot of, like you said, whether it's that 3-question, how do I figure out what your pain is? Or even the delicate walking the line of trying to determine where's this conversation going. All that's kind of out the window. It's almost like somebody walks in and says, I've been told I can trust you. I have something I think we can work on together. Let's explore it, which is a whole different feeling to the conversation. So really, really appreciate that kind of backdrop as we go into it. So I think when we think about getting referrals, often we think about having to go out and ask for them, mine for them, dig them up. And even for me, sometimes that doesn't feel great. Like I can honestly say, like, if somebody really wants to refer me, which I would never stop somebody for the record. If somebody really wants to refer me, shouldn't they kind of do it on their own without me having to ask them for it? Like I know there's a give and take there somewhere, but with your specific approach, you're generating referrals without going out and directly asking and mining for them. So how does that process work? So now we're layering on, we're building our business without selling, and we're getting referrals without having to go out and ask for them.
Yeah, and I think like let's be honest, right? When you say, okay, you teach people how to generate referrals without asking, everybody goes, "Oh, yes. That feels so much better. That sounds so much better than all of the what we call old school, right? Or old school traditional advice of how we've been taught for decades and decades of how to generate referrals." And so when people first have a conversation with me, one of the things I always like to say is that you're not allowed to ask. And I say it that way because I think people, when they hear me say, hey, I'm going to teach you how to generate referrals without asking, without compensating, without having to be promotional and gimmicky, and without feeling like you've got to network all the time. There's going to be work involved, but it's going to look different. It's going to feel different. It's going to fit you better. The first thing they have in the back, that you're like on board, right? They're like, that sounds great. And then there is this decade-old thought process that's kind of been beat into all of us. That's like, wait, at what point though are you then going to teach me to ask? And so it's even when I'm like working with people, they're like, I keep waiting for you to tell me how to ask. And I'm like, you're not allowed to ask. Like that's a fundamental principle of what my clients have to commit to. Because if you start asking for referrals, you're going to undo everything that we're actually working to do. And the reason why I can teach my clients how to generate referrals without having to ask for them or pay or be gimmicky or feel like they're networking all the time is because I teach referrals from a science-backed approach. And that's the thing people have no idea about when it comes to referrals and science is understanding there's more than just the psychology of trust. That's a big part of the science behind referrals. But that's just one piece of actually how referrals happen. And so I always tell folks, when you understand where referrals fit in your overall business development strategy or your overall sales strategy, and you layer that on with understanding the science behind referrals, it really does change everything you think about referrals. And then you're like, oh, now I get that there's the other things that I do that Stacey teaches is why I don't have to ask or pay or be gimmicky.
I love how you went through the list of things that we've kind of been beaten that we have to do. The networking, the gimmicky, the promotional, all of those other things. And I know I probably should honestly do more networking events, especially where I live, because I spend such little time here. So at least let people know that I'm alive and I live in this general geographic area. That probably wouldn't be a terrible thing. But when I do go to networking events, I feel like we run into people who are well, there's people like me who are just standing in the corner watching everybody else. So I guess that's one problem. But then when you start talking to people, there are those who appear to be like sincerely curious and they're there. And then there's like the serial networkers. And it's almost like you watch them bouncing from person to person to person to person. And they have this internal 45-second clock. And it's like, hi, I'm so-and-so. What do you do? This is what I do. Oh, you should know this person. Let me introduce you. And it's not an actual referral. It's almost like a relay race, and you get points if you hand off the baton more. So I love hearing you talk about the science-backed approach to what you do without going too deep, because I can be a nerd and go all the way down that rabbit hole. What are some of the key scientific principles that go beyond just the psychology of trust? Like, that's such a minimal thing, right? But what are some of the scientific principles that you really rely on with your strategies?
Yeah, so there's multiple, to your point, right? But there's three big that I think helps folks frame exactly what we're looking at when we're talking about the science behind referrals. And that psychology of trust is actually only the second point. So most people are like, oh, it's most important. I'm like, it's actually not. It's the second most important thing. But if you think about the very first thing you have to understand from a science perspective is what is actually happening in the brain of the person who is referring a potential client to you. So I refer to that person as your referral source, sometimes called a referral partner, referral source. I don't really care what you call them, right? But the reality is they're the person who is going to refer a prospect to you. But there's something happening in their brain when they are thinking about or having a conversation with a prospect. And usually that conversation sounds a little bit like we're having a conversation and we're talking about things, and then you mention a problem you're having. And in that moment, right, the happiness trifecta in my brain is going to be all lit up like a Christmas tree. That's not technically how it works. It's just how I like to think about it,
Sure.
right? But the happiness trifecta gets all lit up like a Christmas tree. It's where your feel-good chemicals are released, because in that moment, you're trying to help somebody. And that it feels good. So if I'm having a conversation with you and you're like, I really need to solve XYZ problem. And I'm like, whoa, Michael, I know exactly who can help you with that, right? I know exactly what you need to do to solve that problem. There's something happening in my brain, right? My happiness trifecta and my feel-good chemicals like dopamine and its two cousins are actually being released. And that's feeding that desire to help, right? And so that's what people miss. They think like, hey, if I ask you to refer me, I can somehow manufacture or artificially create that response that's happening. But that response, as much as people hate this to be true, that response must occur naturally. In that moment that someone is having a problem and I'm talking to them, I'm like, I know how to solve your problem. At that point, I'm going to actually refer them to you. You're the solution provider for this, right? You are like at the end of the story. You're important, but you come at the end. And so people believe referrals are about them because they get a new client. It's not. Referrals are about your referral source in that moment being the hero by helping somebody who has a problem. And how they're going to help that person who has a problem is by referring them to you. So in that situation, right, the first thing you have to understand is the brain science, like what's actually happening in the brain, and recognizing that referrals are never about you. They feel awesome and amazing because you're getting a new client potentially, but they're never about you. So that's the first piece of the science. The second piece, of course, is what we've already talked about, the psychology of trust. And yes, it is true. There's a reputation on the line, right? But what most people get wrong about the reputation on the line is they think that means their referral sources have to be quote unquote trained on all the ways that they are amazing and that why they should trust them. And actually that trust is maintained by the relationship you maintain with your referral source. Now, that doesn't mean you can't lose trust, and that doesn't mean you can't do crappy work and have people trust you and still continue to refer to you. But so while the psychology of trust matters from a reputation perspective, and the prospect is borrowing that trust, right? When they talk to you for the first time, the trust piece of what we're really trying to maintain with our referral source is actually more built on our relationship with them. And that bleeds into the third part of the science that matters so much, and that is behavioral economics, because that's the idea of how you maintain and nurture and cultivate the relationship you have with your referral sources. And that is not 7 million cups of coffee. That is not sending them an email every 30 days saying, hey, what's up? Or sending them a text message every 62 days because your CRM, your client relationship management tool, told you it's been 62 days since you've touched this person. You should probably reach out to them. That's not going to actually move a relationship forward. That's just going to be you keeping in touch. What I teach my clients is the way we use behavioral economics and how we bake in the science pieces to the strategies that we build. This is about transcending keeping in touch. And this is about making you top of mind, but in a memorable and meaningful way. And we leverage behavioral economics in terms of how we do that so that we're maintaining the right type of relationship. But all of that science is based on the fact that you believing with referrals, that a fundamental truth you have to believe is that when people refer to me or when I want people to refer to me, I have to be willing to take care of them first. I have to be willing to make sure that I don't take that for granted. And I have to be genuine and I have to be authentic. And I actually have to care about maintaining the relationship with those folks. So the science all works, but it really does start with what you believe as well.
So many powerful ideas in that. I really love the focus with all of them, but especially in the first two, about the importance of the referral source and how are we nurturing that and how are we growing that and how are we building value into that relationship. And what you said with the third one, there's a big difference between keeping in touch and moving relationships forward. And I feel like that's something people miss by a mile. It's not a spot on story, but years ago I was working with a group and one person came up, she ran a big pharmacy and she said that she asked me, why do the reps that come in always leave me the same leave behind document every time, but they can ask me about my husband and my son and remember their birthdays? Well, because that's what they were taught is important. If I remember your husband's birthday, you'll like me. They never pay attention to the value they're actually trying to build because they're just trying to be liked. And it's been said forever that people do business with those who they know, like, and trust. That's true, but it's also not true at the same time. And I think what you're illustrating here is so important, borrowing the trust from our referral sources because of the relationship we build and being able to buy into that relationship and then take care of it along the way. So I love that approach. Are there particular, and we talked before we went live, I'm certainly not asking you to give up like everything you teach in an hour conversation. So let me just repeat that again. But are there particular steps or techniques that you typically employ in order to help move that value-based relationship along with the referral source so they are willing to put their reputation on the line and make those referrals?
Yeah, so it's kind of like a formula, right? In terms of what I ultimately teach my clients. And the first place we always start at the beginning of this formula, and the rest of it doesn't matter until you can figure this piece out, is understanding who can refer to you. And there's actually 3 buckets of people that I teach my clients how to have strategies in place to cultivate referrals from these 3 buckets. And there are definitely some like details to it and like what that looks like, but generally, the way I tell folks to think about it is the 3 places you should be spending your time and energy and effort to generate referrals should, number 1, the first bucket is the people who already refer you. Right? If there's people who already refer you, we call those your existing referral sources. And the plan we're going to build, the plan that I'm going to teach my clients of how we're going to take care of that relationship with someone who has already been referring you will look different than any of the other buckets because for the simple fact of that they have actually referred you before and we can do things differently. But it's not just the what we do, right? There's the variety behind it, the cadence behind it, the language, which is truly my secret sauce of how we plant referral seeds. So we never, ever have to ask or feel like we've got to hint or feel like we've got to imply or feel like we're trying to like hint around at the idea that maybe possibly you'll consider this for me. So that language piece is truly, truly that secret sauce for me. But how we take care of the people who already refer to you, that's one bucket of humans. And that's one plan you should be running year in and year out in your business. Now, this plan that you're going to do for cultivating people who already refer you, because they're already referring you, and we can have some leverage there in terms of just the longevity of that and the memory runway of that, At the end of the day, we're not doing something daily. We're not doing it weekly, and we're not even doing it monthly. But there is going to be a handful of times throughout the year where you've got to make sure you're showing up for those folks, and you've got to do it as we've focused on, right? From a brain science perspective, of course, a trust perspective, but also that behavioral economics perspective. And so that's kind of how we take care of the people who already refer us. But that's just one bucket. A second bucket is people you wish would refer you. It's like that client you have or that center of influence you've met 14 times networking, and you're like, oh my gosh, I would love it if they would just refer me. Why won't they refer me? Well, that's because just knowing you is not going to ever like just trigger anybody to start referring you. So we actually have a different strategy that we deploy. And my clients know this strategy as our running 5, keeping warm. But this strategy that we deploy, we may be doing like building a relationship with them and having those first conversations and kind of building that relationship. But my clients understand that what I do for the people who already refer me, I can't just be doing the same thing for the people who've never referred me. It won't match. In fact, it'll be weird. And so because these people have never thought to refer you, and your goal is to get your potential referral sources to refer you and to think that it was their idea. And so in that case, there's a different strategy with different outreach that we do with a different cadence and different language. And so that looks different for our potential referral sources. But usually when I have somebody come to me and they're like, hey, I need to get more referrals, we always look at first, are you getting referrals now? If you are, let's see if we can get more from those folks who are already referring you. A lot of times I can help my clients just double their referrals from that group of folks. But 9 times out of 10, I've got when the client's talking to me about wanting more referrals on top of what they're already getting, is they need new people referring. They've hit the capacity with what their current referral sources can send to them. So they need those new referral sources. So that's our second bucket. And then the third bucket, it does have some overlap with the second bucket, but we like to think about it differently because that's how we build processes and systems. We kind of like build those based on the silos. But the third group of bucket are your clients. And it's your clients when they're within your client experience. Now, referral sources can be centers of influence, they can be clients, they can be family and friends. And in some random cases, they can also be strangers, meaning you just don't know who they are, but they know who you are, maybe your reputation, something like that. But referral sources, their types are always going to be centers of influence, clients, family and friends, and strangers. They can be any of those in any of our 3 buckets, except for the last bucket is going to be specific to the clients that are working with you, because you have this great opportunity to nurture referrals from them while they're working with you, which you don't have once they're done working with you as easily as you do when they are working with you. So we build out a plan of how we build a referable client experience. And we understand, right, with the way that I work with my clients, they will also know how to bridge the gap to referrals from within their client experience as well. So you're thinking about, I've got existing referral sources, I've got potential referral sources, and then it's the things I'm doing on a repeatable nature year in and year out for all my clients through my referable client experience. And those are the 3 buckets. And you need a plan in place for all 3. The existing referral source bucket, so bucket number 1, and the referable client experience bucket number 3, they run on repeat year in and year out. Doesn't mean you don't tweak things, doesn't mean you don't make changes to it, but the basic premise of having a plan in place. I just did a podcast interview on my podcast, Roadmap to Referrals, for a client that I haven't worked with in like 12 years. And so we were looking at, maybe it was 11 years, and she was walking me through the 11 years of referral success that she has had because she learned it from me 11 years ago and just was consistent, right? So these are plans we put in place and we keep them going. Now, the middle bucket, those potential referral sources, this is the one I tell folks that like you can stop and start it as you need it, because sometimes you have more referral sources than you can handle and you don't need to constantly be adding new, but you need to know how to do it for when you need new referral sources.
Yeah, better be to know and not need than need and not know or not be prepared how to do it. And I love how you break it down into 3 buckets because while there are some similarities, of course, there's some important differences. Just common sense. You don't want to talk to somebody like they don't know you or you're not working with them when you already are, or vice versa. So that makes sense. And the plan, the system, and the processes are so important. If we just go out there and wing it, even if we do end up being successful, how do we figure out how we did it and replicate it or scale it? So the plan, the systems, the process are so important. I love that you talked about the language being the secret sauce. I'm not going to ask you for the secret sauce, I promise. But I loved how you talked about the secret sauce. And I loved how you talked about just sowing the seeds. So without going into unnecessary detail, from your perspective, what would be the difference between, this probably isn't the best way to ask the question, but it's too late. What's the difference between sowing the seeds so the referrals will grow as opposed to just going out and asking the people who are centers of influence or are your family or clients you're already working with and you might feel comfortable enough just to go ask?
Yeah. So the difference is your ability to have the idea of referrals move into someone's subconscious. So when you ask somebody, you're putting it at the very forefront of their consciousness in that moment. And depending on how they respond, right, you've either shut them down, right? And more than likely you've shut them down, or you've gotten the, oh, let me think about it. And we all know they never come back. They never think about it and they never come back with like a list of people they're just dying to refer you to because you asked them. So it's that idea of using language that's going to move the idea of referring to you from that conscious ask and moving it into, without an ask, moving it into that subconsciousness. There's a term that my clients know that I use a lot, and it's this idea that we call, it's the permeate and percolate. Right. So it's this idea of permeating the idea of referrals and percolating the idea of referrals through that relationship that you have with them, through that referral experience that you have with whichever group we're talking about, which means it looks different. Right. We have things that we call direct referral seeds and indirect referral seeds, and there's times that we use them and times that we don't. And it sounds complicated when people like are working with me and then they hear the language, they're like, I would totally say that. I'm like, I know, because I wrote it for a normal person to say it, not like for someone like who's like an amazing salesperson. Because the people that I work with, they are typically experts. They are experts in their own space, and then they decided to start a business, right? So they're expert-based business owners, and they're like, I just need this to sound normal. I just need this to sound like how I would say it if I was meeting somebody to go play pickleball through networking, or if I was meeting somebody, I was having a conversation with my client, I needed to say to sound normal. And that's a big piece of what I teach, is really that language piece. And it's that idea of understanding you don't need to overdo it. You don't need to like force it, right? It's that true idea of planting those referral seeds in the right times. And there are times, right? And that's what I teach my clients. Like there are certain times when you should plant referral seeds and certain times when you shouldn't. And understanding that. And then it's like, once the client like understands that and kind of has it like lockstep and memorized, and when they do plant them, they're part of processes and stuff, it just becomes second nature to how they work their business from a referral perspective.
Yeah, I would imagine anytime somebody learns a new process, you have to think about it a lot in the beginning, but the more you do it, the more it just becomes kind of default operation mode. You mentioned good times and bad times to ask for referrals, and every business can be different.
Not ask.
I'm sorry. Ask. Thank you for correcting me. Thank you very much. Yes. To plant the seeds for referrals.
I told you it was going to happen, right? Yeah. Like we're having this whole conversation about not asking for referrals, but you have been, like it or not, we've all been beaten over the head for decades that the only way to get them is to ask. And it slips out like that for folks all the time.
Yeah, no, you got me. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So good times, bad times. Every business is different. Every relationship is different. So certainly not asking for like, when is the one best time to plant the seed, not to ask, lesson learned. Hopefully that's the last time I touch that electric fence in this conversation. What's your general guide for understanding better times to lay the seeds versus times we should probably avoid or hold off?
Yeah, I mean, truly, it depends. So here's the thing. It depends on what bucket we're talking about, right? So if we're talking about existing referral sources, I'm going to have different guidelines than I would for like the referable client experience than I would for, say, like the potential referral sources. There's just going to be different guidelines of what we do and what we can say. But let me give you two examples, because I know like it's one of those things people are like, but what is a referral seed, right? Like, let me give you two examples so you can understand them. Both of these examples are in both of my books. So if people are like, wait, what was that she said? Or I want to know more. So I'm going to give you two examples, one from each of my two books that I have, and then I'll kind of give you context behind it as well. So one of the easiest things that people should know how to do, and should be one of the things that you just always think about doing, and it's crazy to me when people don't, is that, and let me start by asking you this question. Did you know, Michael, that there's a right way and a wrong way to write a thank you note for when you've received a referral?
I'm going to say I would assume there's a right way and a wrong way.
Because we're
but
having
no,
this
I've never
right.
been like formally taught the right
Yeah.
way and the wrong way. I'm assuming thanks, dude, would be wrong.
Yes. And you'd be surprised how many people are like, thanks so much, or thanks for the referral. Right. And I'm like, no. I need you to shift those couple of words to say a couple of different words. But it's funny because I have clients who be like, who would have thought you could write a thank you note wrong? Like, is it the idea that I'm writing a thank you note what makes it right? I'm like, the fact that you're writing it is huge. Right. But if you're going to take the time to write it, let's just get it right. Right. At the same time. So there is a script that I say script loosely because it's literally one sentence. But there's a script that I teach my clients that they have to put in every thank you note they write when they are thanking for a referral, and only when they are thanking for a referral. And that is to actually, we call it the thank by name, right? And so the thank by name referral seed that we plant is if you were referred to me, right? And I was writing this thank you note to Sarah, I would be like, Sarah, thank you so much for referring Michael Reddington to me. I'm using your name. Because in the moment that I use your name, yes, I'm saying thank you. That's important. Like you got to do the thank you piece, right? And yes, I'm planting the idea that they referred you to me. But when I say your name, they're instantly going to see you in their mind's eye. And that's going to remind them in a stronger way, oh, that's right. I did refer Michael to Stacey, right? And so they're going to see it differently. And that means it's going to lock in into their brain differently than just, hey, thanks for the referral. And they're like, okay, you're welcome. I don't remember. That was like, it wasn't that it was 3 weeks ago. It was like it was 3 days ago. And I still don't know what you're talking about, right? Because that's how busy we are today. Mm-hmm. And that's how much information we consume, right? So the idea there is making sure that you thank by name. So when you get a referral, which are typically coming from your existing referral sources, or if you've cultivated someone new, the thank you card needs to say that. It needs to say, thank you for referring, and then you insert the name of the prospect they referred to you. And just let me go ahead and address this because I always get this question. Number one, yes, I said handwritten, and that is not up for debate. That's the one thing my clients know. I am like, there's a couple of times I'm like, you must handwrite. There's like 3 times I tell my clients, you have to handwrite. Everything else does not need to be handwritten. It doesn't mean it's going to be emailed either, right? Like some people are like, well, I just want to send them an email, thank you. And I'm like, you can, because that's an immediate, right? If you're looking for that immediate thank you, you're going to send an email. But that does not mean you also then don't send a handwritten thank you note. And handwritten means handwritten. And it doesn't mean you use some third-party robot to do it for you.
Yes, please.
Right? Because we can all tell the difference. I don't care how good they look, unless you're actually paying another human to write it for you. And then you just got to make sure their writing always looks like your writing, right? So it's just important because here's what a thank you card does that people completely overlook. It does a couple of things. One, we're going to plant the right referral seed when we can customize that card to say thank you for referring and then the name of the prospect. 2, what a thank you card says where it's handwritten by you more than anything else is it tells me when I receive it that I'm worth your time. And that is something that is the most important thing that someone can feel more than anything else is that, oh my gosh, I'm worth your time, that you took the time to handwrite a card. And the third thing is most, not all, but most thank you cards for some length of time will be kept. They'll be set on the desk, they'll be put in the cork board, they'll be put in a thank you box of cards that they receive. And then eventually, before it makes its way to the recycle bin, it's going to be read again, giving you the opportunity to plant yet again another referral seed with that person who referred you. And so that's really important, right? So when we're writing thank you notes, I don't care what the rest of the thank you card looks like, but that line is a non-negotiable. If I always tell my clients, I'm like, if you refer to me, you will see that line will be there all the time. Like I practice what I preach, right? It is always in my cards. I may say other things, right? But like, it's always going to be in there. So that's when you're thinking about it from the existing referral sources, or I guess more specifically, when you receive referrals, how you plant a referral seed and that thank you card. And I do talk about that in my first book, which is Generating Business Referrals Without Asking. Now, the second example, right, is my second book that is out is called The Referable Client Experience. So I have 2 books out based on 2 of my 3 foundational strategies, those 3 buckets that we talked about. My second book that just came out at the end of last year is on the client experience and making that a referable client experience. One of the easiest referral seeds that people should be planting during the client experience is first knowing if a client was referred to you, right? And then, ready for this? Because you're going to be like, duh, right? But you're going to be like, oh my gosh, reminding them that they were referred to you. It is amazing to me how many people don't even think about, oh yeah, when I'm having conversations throughout the course of our client engagement, I should probably a couple of times, not every time, that's weird, right? But a couple of times, probably, I don't know, 3 times as you're in the new stage, the active stage, and as you're moving into the alumni stage and we're done working together, probably remind you that you were referred to me. And so we can change the language based on where we are in the client experience with that client of how we say, hey, by the way, just want to remind you that you were referred to me, because you don't say it like that, right? But the idea is that you just want to make sure that they don't forget. People try to overcomplicate what the language looks like and what it means. But true, and it's not just go around thanking everybody for their referrals and think you're going to unleash like a river of referrals, right? And you're not going to unleash a river of referrals just because you start writing a bunch of thank you notes. But they are a part of a process that starts the percolation and the permeation, the idea of referrals, and we do that through our language.
Great examples. And the point about using the names are spot on, just to double down on that, the brain anchors, the brain science. And I love even that last example speaks to the seeds. Like I'm just little reminders here, and there's ways to work it into a sentence. So it's like an, oh yeah, moment, or maybe I just mentioned the person who referred me to you, and that helps them remember that the referral took place, to your point, without saying, hey, remember how you were referred to me? Let's keep that rolling. All right. It's like that line at Starbucks. When somebody pays for the next one, you keep paying. Right? Let's keep this going.
Yeah.
So these are all tremendous ideas. I've certainly been taking notes the whole time I've been listening, but I've been known to screw up a good idea before. So what happens if we lose a referral, or we didn't move quick enough to capitalize on a referral, or somehow we made a mistake in the process? Are there recovery strategies that we might be able to employ?
Yeah, so everything's situational, right? When I talk to my clients about how we deal with, we call this like when problems arise, like when problems show up, and that's going to happen, right? It's knowing in the moment like what you would say and do. But like I tell my clients is like, yeah, there's some standard language pieces that we want to make sure we understand. And then other times I need you to show some discernment, and I need you to be able to figure out. I always tell folks, like, once you're in my world and you're working with me, you'll find yourself start thinking the way I think. Because when I'm teaching my clients, they don't just get the, hey, let's change that language. They get the, hey, we're going to change this language, and here's why. So they start can actually level up their language, right? Level up their communication, level up their messaging from that perspective. Because eventually I want my clients to be able to go off and graduate. Like they don't need me forever. That's that would be, I guess, a great business model for me, but not great for them as clients if they could never figure it out for themselves, and they couldn't figure out how to do it without me. That's not the point. But it's usually it's just a level of discernment. So when you say, what are some recovery things? The question is more so, okay, so let's talk about a specific one, right? Because how I would answer, hey, I got referred someone and then they never followed up and never ghosted me. How I would tell you to recover from that versus I got a referral, I took them through the process, and then I had to tell them no because they weren't the right fit. How do I message that back to my referral source? Those are 2 totally different scenarios, right? And those are things that I would have my clients understand as okay, once you've done this, now you know what it looks like and you can keep repeating it, right? I mean, that is the beauty of what I teach, is that ability of once you understand, oh, there's probably a scenario here and there's probably a better way. That doesn't have to be the right way. I mean, I probably think it's the right way, but for everybody else, we just call it the better way to handle that situation. For example, let's talk about when you are referred someone and then the person that's referred to you, the referred prospect, ghosts you, right? And so, or what I love to say, before my kids became teenagers, we used to just say they just stopped following up, but now we get to use fun terminology like they ghosted us, right? I'm like, they didn't follow back up. Yeah. Most people will keep following up with the prospect, right? Trying to get in front of the prospect, that referred prospect, trying to get in front of them. And that's fine, right? But at some point, I always loop back in the referral source. And that's a piece that people will forget, right? And so it's thinking, I want folks when they work with me, I want them to be like, let me take a step back and look at this from a totality and be like, what is the best way to follow up in this scenario? And then that can become a standard operating procedure. It can become an SOP. Like, hey, when this happens, this is how we do it. Like, there's certain things that I will go in. So there's a couple of ways that I work with clients. And regardless of which way that I'm working with a client, there's a couple of things I will do that I will sometimes teach live to my clients because of time of year. There's certain things that we can do because of time of year to help us like recover some of our lost referrals or generate more referrals and things like that. But I want them to be like, she taught me this last January, and now I know what to do every January, right? Like it's those kind of things that I teach my clients, but it comes with a level of discernment. And it comes with a level of understanding, hey, in this scenario, versus just what I think, what my instinct says, like, hey, just go follow back up with a prospect. Maybe in this scenario, I need to do something different. And that would then open up your mind to the idea, and maybe I need to follow back up with a referral source before I follow back up with a prospect the next time.
It's a tremendous point. If oftentimes the right answer to the wrong question is still the wrong answer. So it's like, what do I need to say to them now? What do I need to say to them now? Well, how about what could somebody else say to get them to re-engage? And if the original referral source is how this quote unquote problem started, well, then looping them back in to try to create a solution seems like a natural next step. So that's a great point. I worked with a client years ago, and unfortunately there was one person on the team who had spent a little bit of extra time with because she had become so regimented in her outbound strategy that she was actually stacking up inbound and referral leads and not addressing those. And in my probably overly pragmatic mind, if Stacey calls and says, hey, I'm referring you to John, John's probably going to call you tomorrow, then John probably just jumped up to the top of my priority list. Are there specific strategies or methodologies for onboarding somebody who was referred to you, not onboarding like as a client, that's going to be different for everybody, but onboarding them like into your world? Like, so now that you've been referred to me, are there best practices for starting to build that relationship without either ignoring it or jumping into, hey, Stacey referred you to me, so you ready to just sign the contract and we'll get started?
Yeah, I always tell folks, you're going to follow your same sales process. Even when someone's referred to you, you'll follow the basic outline of a sales process or whatever your sales process looks like, right? If it's like a discovery call, right? And then whatever that looks like. But what I do teach my clients, and we do keep this part like behind the paywall from that perspective, is there's actually different questions you will ask a referred prospect when you are meeting with them after they've been referred to you that will help them remind themselves that they actually want to work with you and that they want to have a conversation with you. And so there are things that we will do differently for a referred prospect. It doesn't mean we're going to drastically change your process. It just means, hey, when you're having this conversation with a prospect that came through a Facebook ad or a meta ad, you may have your process of how you do things, but this person was referred in. They're probably going to jump the line. They're probably going to look a little bit different in your CRM. They're going to be tagged differently in your CRM because they were referred, and you're going to make sure you're tracked who referred them, right? And you're still going to go through your process, right, of like what it looks like to like have conversations with them because they still need the opportunity to decide to work with you. There's no guarantee they're going to say yes. It's just there's a better likelihood that they will. And so you still have to have your process that you follow. You may move it along faster, right? Discernment, it's a big part here, right? So you may move it along quicker. You may make some time more available on the calendar, right? I have definitely been known to do that. If someone's been referred to me and they're like, and I can tell they're like, they're ready to connect, I will say, hey, here's the link to my calendar if you want to go ahead and schedule time. But if you can't find something that's convenient, I've copied my assistant on here and she will work to find you time. That language is probably only ever going out the door to a referred prospect. And so, yeah, there's things that you can do differently from that perspective, right? But there are different questions that we'll ask when we are having conversations in the sales process with those prospects that were referred. What people don't know, and I think that they kind of have to start to understand, is I teach referrals like they live in an ecosystem in your business. So I teach more than 20 different strategies. of what it looks like when referrals are showing up or there's problems or when they arrive or to get more or to cultivate that relationship, they all follow into like a process, right? They're all going to be a part of something. They're not going to be these individual standalone 20 different things. And some of them are big and some of them are tiny, right? Most of them are situational, which means they're language based, which means it's like, hey, when this happens, I say this. Like when this happens, I know I'm supposed to do this. And that's a big part of understanding how we build that referable business and how we're able to generate referrals is understanding that, hey, there's a bunch of different strategies. You won't need them all and you won't use all of them all of the time, but you'll be armed with the ones that you do need. You will have a fully stocked toolbox with all the tools that you do need, and you'll understand how and when you're supposed to use them.
Having that fully stocked toolbox is going to be so important because I wish a hammer solved everything. I'd probably get a lot of enjoyment out of breaking stuff, but it's just not how it works. But also, I love how you've talked about multiple times. It's not just say this or do that. It's understand why, because there are going to be variances where maybe the exact thing doesn't always work. But if we understand why, you can tweak it for that situation, for that customer, and still accomplish the same thing. So you just mentioned 20 different strategies. You mentioned your books. You mentioned working with your clients. So please, for the people who have been listening and are like, this sounds great. How do I learn? How do I apply? Where can people go to learn from your books, to sign up for your courses, to learn from you online? You mentioned your podcast, listen to your podcast. You've got a lot going on. How can people follow and stay connected with you to capitalize on all of these things?
Yeah. So the best place from a home base perspective is going to be our website, right? It's StaceyBrownRandall.com. I'm sure you'll link to it in the show notes. I always tell folks Stacey is spelled with an E. It's just how my parents decided to make it complicated. So definitely the website is a great home base because there you'll be able to see the programs and how they compare of how I work with folks. You'll be able to see both of my books. You'll be able to get a link direct to the podcast. We actually have on our YouTube channel, we actually do a video podcast so you can watch them on YouTube or listen to them in your favorite app. Like you're right. There's a ton of ways to access information for me. And the reason for that is because I first have to get you to understand and I have to try to break that initial reaction to, but when are you going to teach me to ask? And it's like, there's like an over learning here that happens, or maybe I'm like undoing some bad years of learning from that perspective. So if you like to listen to podcasts, start there. If you like to read books or if you like to listen to audiobooks, start there. There are great places to just kind of sink in and start understanding and learning from me and how I teach. And if and when you're ready, that's what the website's for as well. There's a whole programs tab that'll walk you through how to work with me.
And I will absolutely include all of those links in the show notes so people don't have to go hunting for them. They will be right there. And hopefully they will learn from me and not mention asking for referrals instead of planting seeds after they've already been immersed in a conversation about it with you. I really appreciate you sharing your time today. Thank you so much. I've been taking notes, lots of great new perspectives, even to apply in my own world. So I really appreciate everything you shared today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Look forward to talking to you again soon. Stacey, thank you for a tremendous conversation. I really appreciate all that you shared, all that you taught me. I took a bunch of notes, certainly going to start employing many of the things that we talked about. And I hope everybody who was along for the ride with us this week got as much out of that conversation as I did and follows up to continue the conversation with you. You brought up so many great points. And I love how you called me out on the fact that we're not allowed to ask for referrals in this program. And as a quick aside, on the same day we recorded this conversation, I had someone straight up ask me for a referral after we talked. And I thought to myself, I know someone that you should talk to. So I love the concept of we're not allowed to ask. I also love how you talked about the importance of leveling up our language when we have these conversations. And to remember that reputations are on the line, not just ours, but the people who are referring us as well. So we need to keep all of that under consideration. I really appreciate all that you shared. Thank you so very much. And of course, thank you to everybody that was along for another episode this week. We really appreciate you tuning in week after week. Hopefully you're continuing to take great notes and learning a lot from all of these conversations, just like I am. Thank you. While you're with us, please just take a quick moment, subscribe to the show, like the show, leave us your feedback and review. Please share it with your network. We really do appreciate it. Also, please just take a moment, to check out our sponsors. You can head over to humantel.com, enter the code Inquasive25, and get 25% off their best-in-class online training to recognize when people's emotions are shifting by accurately recognizing changes in their facial expressions and nonverbal communication. Professional interviewers, please go to certifiedinterviewer.com. That's where you get all your questions answered about the Certified Forensic Interviewer designation, how to earn it, how to leverage it, and also the International Association of Interviewers. What are the membership requirements and opportunities at the national level, the local level, and more? Check it out. And please also head over to inquasive.com. That's where you can learn more about the programs our clients ask us to custom facilitate for their senior leaders, sales teams, HR teams, and more to teach them how to uncover hidden value in all of their high impact conversations. We really appreciate you being here for another week. Thank you so very much. Take care of each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.